There we go. Sorry. Hey, gang, what's up? Just Aaron right here, Canadian Looney. What's up? We've got a very wild and wacky Thursday for us to get started. We're going to kick this off, watch a couple of videos that I've got prepared. We're going to watch the question period as well. Then we're going to watch a Senate question period after today's question period is over. And we'll see how that goes. Anyway, let's kick this thing off. Let's get it going.
Hey, everyone, quiet down. There's a bulletin on TV.
And now for this news flash. The worst blizzard in 50 years is approaching us at a great rate. The Weather Service reports that barometers are falling sharply. Oh, no! Ah!
Mr. Boissonneau, who's Randy?
Ready, everybody? Make sure you take out your colors. Make sure you're ready to be proud of who you are, who you love. And don't forget, we also faut toujours avoir une pancarte pour la fierté. Donc, soyez vous êtes, aimez qui vous aimez, soyez fiers d'être Canadien et queer, and know that this government and I always have your backs. Joyeuse saison de la fierté. Happy Pride season.
With respect, Minister, I share MP Green's latter comments that your testimony has not been helpful. In fact, not only have you been disrespectful, you are exhibiting traits in my old career that I would classify as a lying witness. You've been evasive.
That's not appropriate, Mr. Chair.
Well, it is.
That's not parliamentary language.
Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, gang, what's up? Just Aaron right here, Canadian Looney. Guess what? I found Randy, and now, all of a sudden, Minister Boissonneau has a lot to say. Let's check this out. Randy Boissonneau is a joke. Let's take a look at this. It's a total laugh. It's a fun one to watch.
Yeah, look, I'm happy to talk about the comments that were made in the House today. Clearly, the Conservative Party is the party that has real difficulty with queer people, 2S LGBTQI people and our rights. Look, I've dealt with this kind of discrimination and homophobic jokes my whole life. And, you know, when I came out, I had friends who later said, look, we didn't know the effect this had on you growing up. And I think every Conservative MP needs to check themselves and realize that they've got queer people in their ridings and that this is not a locker room from the 1980s. Times have changed, and it's really too bad that the Conservative Party hasn't. En France,
An apology for it?
Absolutely. Look, somebody's being a coward. Somebody's hiding behind Parleview. Somebody is making a comment that's homophobic, and then a bunch of other people are laughing, and they're getting caught up in the audio, and now when they're caught out, they're being a coward. So which of the Conservative MPs is the coward today? Let's have them stand up.
Did you hear who it was?
I did not hear who it was. I was writing out a card to a constituent, and by the time I looked up, I couldn't peg who it was.
That's
but,
what
look,
she
it's
said.
not cool. Like, look, take us. You know, we can talk about a $9 million condo in New York that's saving Canadians money, that's going to help us represent Canada in New York. But that's not the time to have a homophobic slur thrown at anybody. Nonetheless, the Prime Minister.
I missed the beginning. Who said what?
I wish I knew. And what I said is there's a Conservative coward out there hiding behind Parleview and the fact that we don't know who it is. And so if you're going to make a homophobic joke, come up to the microphone and say it so you can be tagged properly.
That's what she said.
I think what was said was, did you jump in the bathtub with him? For referring to Tom Clark and the Prime Minister. So that's not cool. And so, like, this is the kind of locker room talk that belongs in the 1980s. I know because I was in those locker rooms. And I was the queer kid that had to hide. And so that's like, whoever that MP is, they've got queer kids in their riding. And what they're hearing from their MP is that they don't belong.
What I heard about a bathtub was, does he engage with them in the bathtub? And he
Well-
was referring to diplomats engaging with foreign leaders because Mr. Poilievre had just spoken about the copper bathtub.
The fact that it was the Prime Minister in an exchange with the Leader of the Opposition, it was very clearly directed at the Prime Minister and our Consul General in New York. So that's not cool, and I think look, if they want to come and clarify what they said in crosstalk in the House, come to the microphone and own up to it. Thanks, everyone. Merci beaucoup.
ended up withdrawing some of the comments he made in response. I guess I'm wondering, are you worried that the tone of Parliament is just spiraling down here?
Well, look, the tone in Parliament has been spiraling down for some time, and it's our job as parliamentarians to keep that up.
That's
look,
what she
homophobic
said.
slurs that get people's passions up do not help. And look, Aaron O'Toole lost his job because he had the guts to support an unanimous consent motion on ending something as odious as conversion therapy, which had affected over 20,000 men in this country. And then his backbench deposed him within weeks. So that's the state of the Conservative Party in 2024, when they can get away with those kind of jokes, and when a leader decides to stick up for the community, they get their head chopped off. Merci.
Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.
Oh, yeah.
All right, gang. So we're going to take a moment here just to say hello to everybody that we have in the room right now. We've got Bob Boom, what's shaking, baby? We've got Cryptomeria, how are you doing, hun? Gus Papas, how are you doing? Hoof Heated, what is up? Jason Thunder, always a pleasure. Good to have you around. Joanne's Creations, welcome to the channel. Welcome back to the channel. Keister, good to see you. What is up? We've got an exciting show to do. Kenzie, again, thank you for last night. Just kidding. That was fun to do, though. Captain Kirk, my man, what is going on? Beam me up. We've got Mike Tremblay. What's up, brother? How's it going today? Mark Maloney, how are you doing, man? What is up? Thank you for taking part in the chat room. Mr. Pickles, what can I say? I would say it's always a pleasure. I don't know. We've got No Show. How are you doing? My girl Patty Zadow, what's up? How are you doing? We've got Rory Kennedy. Thank you, brother. Thank you for the membership. That's awesome. Appreciate it a great deal. Charlene Harper, how are you doing? My girl Sheila Hall, with me since the start. Thank you so much for all of your help. Shirley Anderson, how are you doing today? Should be a great show, Shirley. Steve Bloy, what is up? How are you doing? What is up? Terry Getty, what is up? How are you doing? And that might be the participants I see in the chat room right now. Oh, Mike Tremblay, you're the best. Thank you so much. Anyway, we're going to skip into the next video.
Oh, hello.
Oh, we're
Do
going
you have
right
a
into the
warrant
intro.
to be here?
Here we go.
Oh, yeah.
It's time for a change in this country, my friends. A real change.
Wiggle and squirm as you might, it is really hard to put lipstick on a pig.
When I'm Prime Minister, I will keep my promises.
WTF.
Here.
I know this place is where I am. No other place is better than. No matter where I go, I am proud to be Canadian.
What's up, Blue? Good to see you. Jason Thunder, bring it on. How you doing? Shirley Anderson. James Fahey, my brother, what is shaking? Irish Mist, how you doing? Good to see you.
I love this country where I am. This land is where I make my stand. The mother truth gets truer than
The one we call Canadian.
Thank you very much, Sheila. You're amazing.
Lord.
The video shows dozens of migrants pulling aside a razor wire fence.
Migrants running right past officers. Take a look. A group of 7 men emerged from the brush.
This isn't a joke. This isn't over-embellished. The borders are wide open.
If you are smart enough, you will know who I am. But you are really not smart enough to know who I am. But soon you're gonna know who I am.
They're printing legitimate passports out and handing them out to as many terrorists as they possibly can to get them into South Central America and have them funnel up through the southern border.
Venezuela.
There's no easy way to tell you this. We found your daughter's body. An illegal immigrant that was a gotaway from El Salvador raped her, strangled her. These murders are very horrendous.
I would say not only Al-Qaeda, ISIS-K type operatives, but you're also looking at state actors.
As long as that border is wide open and nobody in America is paying attention, why would they attack now? Why wouldn't they just keep, hey, let's train some more guys up, get them passports, have them infiltrate into the U.S. Going still good, get some more trained up, get them passports, get them in there. Get as many of these terrorists into the United States as we possibly can, and then if they ever do actually secure that border, that's go time.
Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants.
You're looking at China, Russia, Iran.
There was a woman from Iran who was turned over to intelligence specialists as a subject of interest.
This is a country with zero borders. They've already caught people.
All of these state actors have unconventional warfare mandate. I mean, look at what happened on October 7th. You know, that was horrorism. That was beyond terrorism.
9/11 was a $500,000 budget.
The attack in Russia at the theater, October 7 by Hamas in Israel. These are all local, distributed attacks of horrorism. You know, horrific attacks, not World Trade Center type things, but where we live, work, and play.
We could face a coordinated terrorist attack from elements among the millions who've entered this country illegally over the last 3 years. Is this fear justified?
I am worried about the possibility of a terrorist attack in the country after October 7th.
We can't be amateurish about it, and we can't be casual about it. We've got to train ourselves. We've got to be great communicators. We've got to be able to build these networks you were talking about.
This is what's happening right now.
Yeah.
In a different way. We are opening different conversations that have to do with national security.
You said something interesting on an episode of Sean Ryan that I saw a couple weeks ago.
What I've heard Sarah and others say.
Over 1,000 suicide bombers were sent by him alone, and the U.S. is dropping cash off at his house weekly.
Is that all indications are that they have trained heavily in close quarters battle, local distributed attacks, and that there's a very good chance that the next thing we see on the homeland could be an October 7 style house-to-house, restaurant-to-restaurant, synagogue-to-chapel kind of attack on a massive scale.
This evening, we are also following this new security warning right here in the U.S. from the FBI and Homeland Security, warning of potential threats to public gatherings, the timing of this, and why they're concerned tonight.
As I look back over my career in law enforcement, I would be hard-pressed to think of a time where so many threats to our public safety and national security were so elevated all at once.
What did the DC snipers do? I mean, think about that. You talk about a $500K budget, like the DC snipers shot out of the back of a car and shut down the Beltway for weeks. Imagine the systemic paralysis that would result from an October 7 style attack across 6 cities at the same time.
I mean, we know what that looks like. You people better start paying attention to what is going on, because this shit is going to happen.
We're looking at an unprecedented level of collaboration between state and non-state actors.
These organizations are not competing against each other anymore. Now it's 21 terrorist organizations working together, training together in Afghanistan with one common goal, and that is us.
Okay, guys, so what do we have next? Here, get rid of this. So what we have next is, what do we have next? I think this is Oh, Stephanie Kusi in an OGO committee. Here we go. This is fun. Let's take a peek at this.
To ensure that they had Indigenous inclusion within their opportunity?
Yes, that in going through a procurement process,
yes,
that more points should be awarded to those bidders who have relationships with Indigenous businesses and communities, so not significantly, or not solely on the basis of being recognized as Indigenous through the self-proclamation or officially as the processes we have heard throughout the testimony of this committee, but through the relationships. Do you believe that do you still believe that's important, and do you believe that this recommendation was incorporated into the process?
It has been implemented into some of the process, and I think that's within the Indigenous participation plans. A lot of the government, there is no standard procedure right now or threshold for that, but some of the bigger contracts, there is an Indigenous participation plan that's included within it, and within that participation plan, they talk about community investment, they talk about employment, subcontracting opportunities, and they are awarded points for that. The evaluation of that has to happen with all of them. I know the federal government, and again, there should be a threshold. It shouldn't be just at the discretion of the contracting authority as to whether or not to include an Indigenous participation plan. And I think that's very valuable because, again, that does give the smaller ones. And it is also, as when the Chief Bernard was talking about the community investment, within these participation plans, they will go into the community. They might help with building a school, building a park. It is happening more. There is seeing it more. That's why some of our corporate members are also hoping that the federal government would recognize our certified Indigenous businesses because they are working with those businesses, and that could be included within their Indigenous participation plan results.
Thank you for that. However, in the 2018 study, government officials also testified that they encouraged Indigenous businesses to enter joint ventures with non-Indigenous businesses to bid on contracts. In your opinion, should this practice be encouraged, or should the focus be entirely on improving socioeconomic outcomes for First Nations? I shouldn't say entirely, it should be entirely based on that, but should that be done through the not encouraging Indigenous businesses to enter joint ventures with non-Indigenous businesses?
Well, I think joint ventures do have a place, and they are required because if the smaller Indigenous business, a lot of it could also even be with the insurance requirements, with the bid bonding, that the Indigenous business does not have the capacity to be able to do that. The non-Indigenous business at joint ventures is there to help the Indigenous business grow. There should be a shelf life for a joint venture. I mean, there's been times where a joint venture has been going on 20 years. If it's a true joint venture, that non-Indigenous partner should have helped that Indigenous partner be able to become their own prime contractor themselves. So joint ventures are important, but they have to be looked at and ensure that the benefit is going out. There is growth to the Indigenous businesses. It can't be something that's always going to be able to bid on these contracts and be getting contracts for 20 years because of a JV, and there has been no growth for the Indigenous partner.
In our evaluation of the ArriveCan scandal, we found that there were significant faults in the subcontracting processes. So in your opinion, should there be an overview of the subcontracting process to ensure Indigenous involvement throughout the supply chain?
There is, and that's where I've been saying earlier that there should be a pre-award, post-contract audit done to ensure that what has been claimed to be benefiting Indigenous businesses is happening. For those ArriveCan contracts. Again, I'm not privy to them. I don't know what it is. I just see what the media, and again, media or what is reported needs to be taken with a grain of salt. But if they actually looked at that, and if there was a value to say, okay, well, within that ArriveCan, that went towards the PSIB or the amount of Indigenous procurement, I don't understand. I don't know if any of that value went to the procurement strategy for Indigenous business as part of Indigenous spend.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Kuzmierczak, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Ducharme, for being here today. Before I became a member of Parliament, I worked for a regional innovation center, We Tech Alliance, and we helped establish a program. We worked with First Nations, Indigenous partners to establish a program called Supporting Aboriginal Youth Entrepreneurs in Windsor, Essex, SAYWE. Fantastic program, and it's through that program that I got a chance to also learn about the incredible work of the Canadian Council for Indigenous Business, the CCIB. Wonderful organization, great work. And I also learned that the fastest growing segment of entrepreneurs in Canada are Indigenous businesses. And there was one particular young entrepreneur who started a company called Culture Shock, selling jewelry and apparel. And I can tell you the immense pride we all felt when that entrepreneur opened up a bricks and mortar storefront in Windsor several years ago to great success. It was wonderful to be part of that. How important is it? You mentioned, you yourself in your opening statement mentioned a successful company that was very successful through its procurement, through this procurement process, federal procurement process. How important is it, in your opinion, to share the success stories of Indigenous businesses working through the federal procurement program? How important is it to get those good stories out?
Thank you, and thank you for the compliments for CCIB. I would also like to recognize that our president and CEO, Tabitha Bull, is actually sitting right behind me. She should have been up here, and I think a lot of our success has been as a result of the great leadership that she's brought forward to CCIB. But I think, again, what we need to do, and as Indigenous people, quite often, we don't want to brag about ourselves. It's hard for us to promote and brag. And I think we at CCIB need to be doing that. We need to showcase, because, again, when you see the success and when you see the growth and what Indigenous businesses have done, people, it's a little bit frustrating sometimes to say, oh, I worked with an Indigenous business and they did that. Well, why do you think we can't do that? But unfortunately, that is sort of the perception. Again, so much media, and whenever Indigenous are involved, it's negative, just like with an Indigenous procurement. A lot of these things where people have taken advantage of it are showcasing. That gets the bites. That's what people look at. I think we should always be celebrating. We do that through our award systems at CCIB. I've had some of the great friends. I mean, Chief Bernard was talking about John Bernard. I was working with John in the 1990s, and I mean, he's been one of our Indigenous leaders. He's actually won a Lifetime Achievement Award through CCIB for entrepreneurship. And again, I think it's so uplifting for our young people to see someone that looks like them succeeding, going in, having a nice car, having a nice house, and sharing, giving them opportunities. So anytime, we should focus a lot more on success as opposed to failure. And I think Indigenous procurement is a means of success. As I said, like even when you look at the Boucher Group, it's a privately held company. They gave $1 million away to charities this year. They employ 40% Indigenous people from 80 communities around the country. We can take care of ourselves. You know, if all of a sudden you decide to drop this, well, bad on you, but we are still going to succeed. As Indigenous people, we've been knocked down and opportunities taken away from us for so often, but we are resilient, and we're going to keep going. And I think we do need to showcase our success. There's incredible businesses. I am so proud. I think I'm one of the luckiest people. I go travel across the country working with Indigenous businesses. We have roundtables talking about this and the innovation. I mean, if you look at the defense sector, there are so many new, upcoming, innovative, that provides so many great things. We are hosting an Indigenous procurement event in Edmonton on October 16th. We have 4 certified Indigenous businesses that are going to be showcasing the innovation they bring. Some of the stuff they bring is actually going to help corporate Canada. They can sell some carbon capture points. I don't know what all that is, but again, the innovation that Indigenous businesses are bringing is incredible. We're going to showcase that. We're going to showcase also our Aboriginal procurement champions that are doing a lot to help Indigenous businesses. We're also going to be talking about government procurement. So again, we'd welcome anyone to join, and it's going to be a great event. We just need to promote and showcase that we are successful, and there's a lot to be proud of.
And I would love to have a conversation with you about how we can, including ourselves here, the media, spotlight those tremendous, uplifting
All right, gang. There's some action on the House Commons floor. They're debating now. I see Greg Fergus is up there. Not that we want to turn on to Greg Fergus, right? But we're going to take a peek, and here we go with that. Oh, again, Greg is in dead silence discussing with his cohorts what they're going to do.
The floor is for the member. C'est maintenant à tour du député de.
It is the member for Shefford's turn to continue her question, but I see a member rising on a point of order first.
Who I saw rising on a point of order is the member from Saanich Gulf Islands.
Mr. Speaker, briefly to say I deeply appreciate, the thoughtful response to my last point of order. But in referring to 11.2, I was cut off by heckling and not able to direct the Speaker to the sections I thought might be relevant in future, which were to avoid irrelevant and repetitious speech, which seemed to be the case in terms of attacking the individual we've referenced. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank the honourable member. I still believe the chair's response is one which will stand. The honourable member from Prince, oh my goodness, Peace River Westlock? No, sorry, Peace River.
George, Peace River, Northern Rockies.
Northern Rockies. My apologies.
Yeah, just point of order, Mr. Speaker. Before you rose to speak to the chamber, my colleague from Calgary Nose Hill still had about 3 minutes left of questions to be asked of her, and we just wanted to know what's happening with that particular time.
Precisely, I'm going to the honourable member from Shefford to finish her question, and then it will go to the member from Nose Hill for a response. Then I have Député de Shefford.
The honourable member for Shefford. Mr. Speaker, can I start over, given that... okay. So, I'd like to thank my colleague for Calgary Nose Hill for her speech. I'll try to be more brief. She said that some people need help, people that are having trouble getting through these times. Does she consider oil companies as being among those who need support and subsidies and so on from the government, and even the subsidies that they got under the previous government? Thank you. The honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill.
I think that Canada needs a bright and vibrant economy in every sector, including the natural resource sector. I don't agree with the assertion of this Liberal government that the way that they have addressed this issue but completely failed is by giving countless untold billions of dollars in waste to their corporate friends. And this is what they're now, I think what they're now doing with Mark Carney as well. So, like today in Industry Committee, we tried to pass a motion to just look at the government's EV strategy, given that they've committed billions of dollars to that industry, and we're seeing these companies essentially say they're not going to set up shop here. So that's so many jobs lost, such a big issue in terms of meeting Canada's climate objectives, and there's no scrutiny on that. So overall, this is why I think that my colleagues should support this motion. We need to have an election so that every political party can set out their visions for the country and that we can move away from this reckless Liberal government's waste. Thank you.
Questions and comments? The honourable member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I would like to thank my colleague for her speech today. It is unbelievable to me that she is a grandmother. I'm not accepting that is a possibility. However, she did list a number of ways that we can identify that the Liberal government has lost their moral authority. But I have to say, for most Canadians, they must be listening to this and thinking, Liberal Tory, same old story, because I also can go through an incredible list of scandals that we saw under the government that she was part of, the Harper government. I think of the Senate scandals with Mike Duffy. I think of election activities where they had to plead guilty to overspending. Maxime Bernier, who is a scandal all in his own right. The Afghan detainees, proroguing Parliament, the contempt rulings that we saw with this government, the G8 funding in Huntsville. I could go on. How does she expect Canadians to believe that the Conservatives would be any less corrupt than the Liberals have been?
The honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Well, I guess I'm having a hard time understanding the moral equivocation. I don't think anybody in this place can argue that this government is a paragon of ethical standards. So but I think the key difference is this member has voted time and time again, knowing that these ethical standards have been brought, she's propped them up. And that's the problem here. So it's time. It's time for an election. Canadians need to have a choice. This government's time is up. We need a reset. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now, before we go to statements by members, I believe the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of National Revenue has a few comments.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm rising on the same point of order that I had raised a couple of days ago. The standing order specifically is 116. Now, that standing order was put in place with the express purpose of protecting the rights of committee members to participate in debate on motions before those motions are put to a vote. It does not matter if the chair claims that he didn't see my hand. The point of the matter is that my hand was raised and the onus was on the chair to ensure that he canvassed the room and made sure that he was fulfilling his obligation as chair to ensure that debate had actually come to a complete conclusion. The standing order in question is in place to protect the rights of members to speak to a motion before it is voted on, regardless of whether the chair accidentally or on purpose does not acknowledge the request of the member to speak. It is designed as a fail-safe to protect members. The onus is on the chair of committees to confirm that there are no members that are wanting to participate in the debate before the question is called. So, Chair, I just wanted to add that to my original point of order. Thank you.
I think on the same point of order, the honourable member for Perth Wellington.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. On the same point, I was in that committee meeting. The chair did indeed pause after the final person had spoken and looked around the room. He then called the question, as was his right, because no other member had risen or had raised their hand. Indeed, after that it was challenged by the chair or challenged by the member, but all opposition members, including the Bloc and the NDP, confirmed the chair's ruling. Therefore, since chairs or committees are responsible for their own affairs, the committee itself, a majority of all parties, confirmed that indeed the chair did act appropriately, and I indeed will claim that I did not see the member raise their hand, nor did anyone else around that table.
Okay, and I know that that the table is looking at this specifically. Normally, the House does not influence itself in the actions of committees, but I know we're looking at this one closely. Statements by members. Déclaration de député. The honourable member for Nepean.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 39 years back, Air India Flight 182 was blown up mid-air from a bomb planted by Canadian Khalistan extremists. It killed 329 people and is the largest mass killings in Canadian history. Even today, the ideology responsible for this terrorist attack is still alive among few people in Canada. 2 Canadian public inquiries have found Khalistan extremists responsible for the bombing of Air India flight. Now, there is a petition on Parliament portal asking for a new inquiry promoting conspiracy theories promoted by Khalistan extremists. Mr. Bal Gupta, whose wife Rama was killed in this attack, told the Globe and Mail, "It is deeply frustrating. It opens up old wounds all over again. It is all garbage. It's an attempt to gain publicity and support for terrorist activities." Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Tobic-Matiquac.
Mr. Speaker, recently my sister and her boyfriend were in a serious motorcycle accident and both sustained substantial injuries. Our family is so grateful that this did not end in total tragedy. We're so thankful to those who walk with others through the shadows of adversity. Those concerned citizens like Mark and Nancy and Steve and Wanda who stayed and comforted them while help was on the way. The paramedics and first responders who treated them at the scene. The doctors and nurses who provided exceptional care during their recovery. The pastors, family, and friends who were there with us with words of encouragement, prayers, and sometimes much needed coffee. Special thanks to my other sister, Amy, who has been by Julie's side through it all. There's an ancient writing that perhaps sums it up best when it says, "Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'll fear no evil, for thou art with me." Thank you to all those who walk through the shadows of adversity, pain, and despair with all of us. It means so much more than words can ever express. And thanks especially to the one who promised to be with us through it all and to never leave us nor forsake us. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
All right, gang, just going to take a moment to say hello to some of the people that have joined the group. It's great to see you. Two Flips, always a pleasure. Autumn Christian, what up? Blue, my girl, what is going on? Christina Paquette, good to see you. I think we caught you earlier, Cryptomariad, Danielle Sweeney, Donna Logan, good afternoon, what's going on? Gibbs Salisbury, how are you doing? Did we see you earlier, Hoofhearted? Welcome to the club. It's great to have you in the gang. Lois Hurst, good afternoon. Richard Lamoth, what's going on, buddy? Always a pleasure to see you, Rayman. Sylvain Robert, what's up? True Blue, my man, what's going on? Tommy Gunn, always a pleasure. Try to be funny in here. You are a funny person. It's great to see. LJ, my brother, what is shaking? Harry Taint, good to see you, my man. Dan H., the room is populating right here in front of our eyes. Jerusalem Jim, man, what's up there? My brother. And did I catch you earlier, Keister? I meant to. It's hard to remember. The days sort of blend together, right? Anyways, back to this. Oh, goodness. We skipped a good one.
The Honourable Member for Abitibi.
Oh, no, Greg
Bay
Fergus
James,
is back.
Nunavik EU. Today is the 25th National School Support Staff Day. Every year, school support staff contribute to student success. They ensure a safe and healthy environment.
What's up, Nene?
And they take care of school facilities. There are more than 80 different jobs divided into 4 broad categories. The first is administrative support. This includes administrative officers, school organization workers, administration and IT technicians, and all those who handle logistics in our school. Second category, manual support, such as caretakers, certified maintenance workers, pipe fitters, and electricians, who keep schools safe for our children. Third category, special education, which includes all those who look after students with special needs. And finally, fourth, daycare services, all educators and support staff in daycares. Thank you to all of these people who work so hard every single day to give all of our children a better future. The Honourable Member for Nickel Belt.
Président, le 25 septembre, l'anniversaire du lever de drapeau franco-ontarien, ici pour la première fois à l'Université de Sudbury en 1975. Ce drapeau est un symbole de notre histoire, de notre culture et de la fierté que nous ressentons. En tant que secrétaire parlementaire aux langues officielles, je tiens à remercier de nombreux organismes qui travaillent pour faire vivre la francophonie, l'ACFO du Grand Sudbury, les centres de santé, les clubs Richelieu, l'Alliance des femmes de la francophonie, les clubs d'amitié des aînés, le Carrefour francophone. Hier, dans Nickel Belt, nous célébrons la construction d'une nouvelle école catholique à Val-Thérèse qui ouvrira en 2025. Elle accueillera les élèves de l'école Sainte-Thérèse, Notre-Dame, Saint-Joseph de Hanmer. Quelle réussite! J'invite tous les francophones et francophones à célébrer notre langue et à continuer de renforcer notre héritage avec fierté. Merci également à nos alliés anglophones et multilingues pour leur soutien précieux. Bonne célébration à tous.
Bravo. The Honourable Member from Carlton Trail, Eagle Creek.
After 9 years of this NDP Liberal government, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and now time is up. Yesterday, Canadians witnessed the hypocrisy of the Bloc and the NDP as they voted to continue propping up this Prime Minister and his devastating policies. They are content to sit on their hands, allowing this Liberal government to unleash more chaos and suffering on Canadians while they wait to get their pensions. This NDP Liberal coalition has doubled the cost of housing, made it easier for criminals to get back on the street, and allowed the cost of living to skyrocket. No matter how bad it gets for Canadians, the NDP Liberal coalition doesn't care. They know Canadians are fed up, but are refusing to listen. Conservatives will axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. Let Canadians have their say and call a carbon tax now.
That's right.
The Honourable Member from Milton.
Thanks very much, Mr. Speaker. Today is Sneak It In Day, so Participation is here in Ottawa to remind us all to make room in our busy schedules to sneak in some movement. Movement is medicine. It's preventative medicine for our minds, our bodies, and our communities that keep us all happy, healthy, connected, and strong. A little exercise every day is also great for our moods, productivity, and focus. I'm proud that our government has made physical activity a national priority, reducing healthcare costs and making Canada a healthier place to live, work, learn, and play. Mr. Speaker, sportsmanship in politics was one of the pillars of my campaign, and ensuring that we can all work together in this House of Commons for progress on common ambitions is important to me. I've organized cross-party runs, soccer games, and yesterday all political parties came together to play cricket, because when we play and do healthy activities together, it reminds us that what we have in common is bigger and more important than what we might disagree on. Thanks to Participaction for reminding us all that moving Canadians forward will lead to better health and prosperity for all Canadians.
Great job. What is up, Charlene Hopper? Always a pleasure to see you.
Surrey Centre.
Mr. Speaker, it is with great sadness that I stand here today to share the loss of Wally Legion Branch 229 President and veteran Tony Moore. Tony was a dedicated advocate for veterans, served as president for as long as I can remember, and he was instrumental in the building of Canada's most modern and full-service veterans facility, the Wally Veterans Village. Opened in 2023, this groundbreaking initiative was launched thanks to Tony's deep understanding of the support veterans truly needed. He tirelessly advocated for the community, ensuring they received the resources and care they deserved. Above all, Tony was a great friend to me, someone who was always frank and forthright. I want to extend my deepest condolences to Tony's family, friends, and all members at the Wally Legion. Tony will be greatly missed, but his legacy of service, compassion, and advocacy will not be forgotten. May he rest in peace.
Good to see you, Backyard Garden. How you doing?
I'm Loops Thompson Caribou.
Mr. Speaker, after 9 years of this NDP Liberal government, taxes are up, corruption is up, crime is up, and time is up. Canadians want an election to decide the country's direction and how their money is used. While Canadians line up at food banks and deal with a worsening housing crisis, the Prime Minister decided to use their money to purchase a $9 million luxury condo for his personal friend. This comes at a time when young Canadians are worried that they may never realize the dream of home ownership. But Canadians are not without hope, Mr. Speaker. An election is coming soon. Then Canadians can hold this government accountable for driving up costs while Liberal insiders benefit. Only a Conservative government will cut the carbon tax and end the abuse of tax dollars.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member for Laval-Les Îles.
Mr. Speaker, Lebanon is bleeding. The entire country is currently in intensive care unit. The population of the country appeals to the international community.
Are they doing it on purpose today? Or are they rubbing it in our faces? I'm not even going to say what it is, but it would seem like something is being rubbed in our faces.
To intervene, put an immediate end to the hostilities and save civilian and innocent lives. Every human being has the right to live in dignity, irrespective of their corner of the globe. Killing innocent civilians is unacceptable on both sides of the border. The hospitals in Lebanon are overstretched and lack the capacity to treat such a massive number of patients. As such, the Lebanese request that our government contribute to demanding an immediate cessation of hostilities and emphasize the need to keep the airport operational. The Lebanese community is hoping that Canada will stand up and champion Canadian values on the global stage. Lebanese people don't want war. Government of Lebanon doesn't want war. We want to live in peace. We want to live in security and to see peace spread and prevail in all of.
The Honourable Member from Calgary, Forest Lawn.
After 9 years of this soft on crime coalition, costs are up, taxes are up, crime is up, extortion is up, and now time is up. Extortion has skyrocketed 357% across Canada. It's easy for criminals to commit crimes, get bail, and go out and re-offend again because of this Liberal NDP government's soft on crime policies. In Alberta, extortion is up 409%. Recently in Calgary, disturbing stories have emerged of armed criminals committing extortions and kidnappings against newcomers, children's families, and businesses. The leader of the NDP, the Prime Minister, and both Liberal MPs from Alberta voted against Common Sense Conservative Bill C-381 on extortions, so they could keep this Liberal NDP Prime Minister in power and protect the NDP leader's $2.2 million pension. Common Sense Conservatives are the only party standing up and protecting victims, while this Liberal NDP government has become the party of protecting criminals.
The The honourable member from Cypress Hills, Grassland.
Mr. Speaker, after 9 years of this NDP Liberal Prime Minister, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and time is up. Taxes are up for everyone, and in Saskatchewan, our hospitals and schools will pay $380 million in carbon taxes alone. This is money that should be used to hire doctors, nurses, technicians, teachers, and educational assistants. But instead, it is being used to line the pockets of the Prime Minister's elitist friends like Mark Carney. In Saskatchewan, we have seen this act before. The last time there was a radical tax and spend Trudeau as Prime Minister, healthcare took a major hit in my province, with hospitals and clinics being forced to close or reduce services. So yes, Mr. Speaker, time is up. The NDP leader has once again sold out his support to the Prime Minister, just like he did the other 24 times that we voted to axe the tax. If the NDP truly supports healthcare and education, they would end their costly coalition and vote with us to call a carbon tax election just like Canadians want. It's clear, Mr. Speaker, only Conservatives are on Saskatchewan's side, and we will axe the tax for good.
The honourable member from Pierrefonds.
Mr. Speaker, this summer I visited dozens of organizations that receive Canada Summer Jobs funding. 220.
They're doing this on purpose today, guys. I believe they're actually like picking on Canadians right now. I don't really believe that, but what a ridiculous show.
Young Canadians have gained
mix.
valuable experience and skills through these jobs, through the Canada Summer Jobs program. Experiences they will utilize into their careers.
I had the pleasure of visiting and meeting with some key organizations.
STARS and Camp Chaos.
Community pools like Briarwood and Fairview and Elm Park.
The West Island Association for the Intellectually Handicapped, which supports adults with disabilities. Des Banques Alimentaires.
Food banks like On Rock and the West Island Assistance Fund. They help families in need.
Of worship and cultural centers like the Hindu Mandir. These groups are dedicated to supporting youth, to developing our community. Thank you so much for all you do. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Victoria.
Mr. Speaker, on September 30th, we mark the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Together, we honor the survivors of residential schools, and we mourn the thousands of children who never returned home. We have a legal and moral obligation to address the ongoing harms to First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples, to acknowledge what happened in residential schools as genocide, and to facilitate a path for healing. The government must do more. One important step would be to pass the MP from Winnipeg Centre's bill that combats residential school denialism. This year in my riding, constituents will be participating in the annual Reconciliation Ride, hosted by Victoria Orange Shirt Day and Capital Bike. We'll hear from incredible leaders in our community, Diane Sam from the Songhees Nation, and Eddie Charlie, a residential school survivor from Cowichan Tribes, before riding as a group to the South Island Powwow. This year's grand entry will take place at noon and at 6 p.m. Everyone is invited to come celebrate Indigenous cultures and resiliency. Haichka Siem.
The Honourable Member for Shefford. In 2024, this year, the Cpac Advocacy Association for the Rights of Retirees and Pre-Retirees, Granby chapter, is celebrating 40 years of fighting for the rights and the dignity of seniors. The theme to mark their 40th year is 40 years of struggle and commitment together for the rights and dignity of seniors. This is an opportunity to reflect on the progress that has been made while looking to the future with determination. Since its creation, the Granby AQDR has devoted itself to defending and protecting the rights of seniors, fighting injustice and equality with vigor and conviction. Let's celebrate the commitment and solidarity of its members and partners. I'd also like to mention that AQDR is a valuable ally of Bill C-319, which the Bloc is proposing to eliminate the unacceptable inequity created by the government since people 75 and over and people 65 to 74 do not receive the same amount of old age security. Together, let's put an end to this age-based discrimination. Happy 40 years.
The honourable member from Niagara Falls.
Speaker, after 9 years of this costly NDP Liberal coalition, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and their time is up. Through this coalition, the NDP leader has sold out workers and residents in my community, which has resulted in higher taxes, balloon food costs, doubling the housing costs, and unleashed crime and chaos in our once safe streets. Their joint plan to quadruple the carbon tax to 61 cents a litre will literally drive Canadians to food banks. Yet, sadly, this NTP leader has voted 24 times in support of this tax. And what are the results? Just over 1 million people visited a food bank in Ontario over the past year, an increase of 25%. In my community, Project Share reports that 1 in 8 residents has had to visit a food bank. Speaker, Canadians need a carbon tax election now to decide between this costly coalition of NDP Liberals or common sense Conservatives who will axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime.
The honourable member from Vancouver Quadra.
Mr. Speaker, today I rise on behalf of Vancouver Quadra constituents to defend carbon pricing. Canadians understand the urgency of reducing carbon emissions to limit their costly, even lethal impacts, such as wildfires and floods, on lands, people and property. 20 years ago, as BC's Environment Minister, I laid the groundwork for BC's Comprehensive Climate Action Plan, which fosters innovation, economic development, and emission reductions through carbon pricing. Canada's national carbon pricing is equally a fair, efficient way to reduce emissions, and like British Columbia's, it works. What's more, 8 of every 10 Canadians under our pricing system get more money back than they pay out. Sadly, Conservative and now NDP leaders reject carbon pricing. Shame on them, working to make carbon pollution free again. Mr. Speaker, we must price it to reduce it.
Colleagues, as I've indicated in my ruling earlier today, the Chair has offered the Leader of the Official Opposition the opportunity to make amends regarding the words he used last week, or else I would remove questions from him during question period today. Having not received such a commitment on his part, and the member having not withdrawn his comments, I will therefore remove 3 questions from the Leader of the Official Opposition in the opening round today. Collègue.
Greg Fergus is a tyrant, guys. Total communist.
Colleagues,
shutting
as
down
I indicated
the
in my ruling earlier
opposition
today,
leader.
The Chair has offered the Leader of the Official Opposition the opportunity to make amends regarding the words he used last week, or else I would remove questions from him during question period today. Having not received such a commitment on his part, and the member having not withdrawn his comments, I will therefore remove 3 questions from the Official Opposition Leader in the opening round today.
Oral questions, questions orales, l'honorable.
The Honourable Leader of the Official
Here we
Opposition.
go. Let's see what Pierre Poilievre has to say.
Mr. Speaker, who could be against the following motion that given that for 9 years the government has doubled housing costs, taxed food, punished work, unleashed crime, and is the most centralizing government in Canadian history, the House has lost confidence in the government and offers Canadians the option to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. The Honourable Minister of Public Services and Procurement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Conservative leader has a major problem. He claims to be the greatest expert in the world on monetary policy, but he didn't even read the beginning of the first chapter of Economics 101, which says that the basic rule to avoid inflation and to have the central bank reduce inflation is to not interfere with the central bank. When is he going to apologize for being both an expert and the most incompetent of all the monetarists in the world?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, at least someone over there thinks about monetary policy. Mr. Speaker, who could be against the following motion? that given that after 9 years the government has doubled housing costs, taxed food, punished work, unleashed crime, and is the most centralizing government in Canadian history, the House has lost confidence in the government and offers Canadians the option to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime.
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There's a very simple answer to his question as to who's opposed to that motion. Canadians.
The Honourable Member for La Prairie. The Liberals have until October 29th to improve OAS for those aged 74 and under and to protect supply management. They need to pass Bill C-319 and Bill C-282. Why these two measures? Well, first of all, because it's good for Quebecers, but also there's consensus in this House. The Liberals, the Conservatives, and the NDP have already agreed to this. So why leave Quebecers waiting when we could make gains for Quebec? Will the government meet our demands for seniors and farmers? Yes or no? The Honourable Minister for Seniors. Mr. Speaker, the member for La Prairie is very, very behind when it comes to support for seniors. He voted against every measure that's been taken in this House, supported by members to help seniors, including the most vulnerable seniors in Canada. And I would like to know from the member for La Prairie, what does he say to the 6,200 people in his own riding who have joined the federal dental care program? What does he say to them when they ask him why he voted against that? The Honourable Member for La Prairie. If they continue like this, they're going to have to answer. They're going to have to ask a lot of questions next year, Mr. Speaker. So, next October 29th, maybe instead of playing partisan games, this government should get to work. The Bloc Québécois demands are clear, positive, and have agreement in this House. The Liberals have a very simple choice. They could either help seniors and farmers, or they could choose to respond with things like that and sabotage their own government. Will they survive by helping Quebecers, or will they die by their partisan swords? The Honourable Minister of Public Services and Procurement. Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And indeed, the Bloc Québécois and other members in this House can choose to sabotage the efforts of the Canadian government to help seniors in his own riding. 7,400 seniors in his riding have signed up, and many of them are receiving for the first time or the first time in many years dental care. Accessible, affordable dental care, investing in housing. Does he really want to associate with the Conservative leader who says that Quebec's municipalities are incompetent and who wants to tear up our agreement with Quebec? The Honourable Member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. Mr. Speaker, Pascal, a single mother from Hull, wrote in an open letter, "I don't think I'll ever be able to buy a house. I'm afraid that my youngest child will never be able to own her own home. I can't change apartments. Rent has gone up so much since I moved in, and the housing costs in my neighbourhood have gone up by over 150%. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals and the Conservatives themselves caused this housing crisis. Why do they want people like Pascal to pay the price? The Honourable Minister of Public Services and Procurement. I'd like to thank my colleague who is a strong defender of social and affordable housing in Quebec for his question, but he knows, like me, to what extent the Conservative leader's policy would be damaging for Quebecers. He hasn't stopped attacking Quebec's municipalities. He's called them incompetent when they're in the middle of building 8,000 new affordable housing units. The Conservative leader built 6 homes all the time he was housing minister.
The Honourable Member from Edmonton-Griesbach.
Another summer has passed and not one single home for Indigenous people have been built. The Liberals promised to deliver an urban, rural and northern housing strategy. 2 years later, still no funding and still no shovels in the ground. Delay, delay, broken promise after broken promise. That's the Liberal way. Meanwhile, First Nations, Inuit and Métis people continue to live in moldy, overcrowded conditions or on the street. Why do the Liberals keep Indigenous people waiting for the homes they need now?
The Honourable Minister for Indigenous Services.
I am so proud to be part of a government that understands by Indigenous for Indigenous housing, and that's exactly what we're doing, Mr. Speaker, by launching the $4 billion urban, rural and northern housing strategy. Already $300 million has been dispensed through an organization led by Indigenous leaders, determining how best to use those funds so that First Nations, Inuit and Métis people have the kinds of housing and supports they need in every city in this country.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Months ago, I asked the government who could be against a motion pointing out that this government's doubled housing costs, taxed food, punished work, and unleashed crime to give Canadians the chance to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. And she said, Canadians are against all of those things. If that's the case, then why won't she let them decide in a carbon tax election now?
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's a little sad that the Leader of the Opposition, having just lost a vote of non-confidence in the government yesterday, is putting forward the exact same motion today. I think it shows his desperation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
No, in fact, the motion specifically demonstrates that this government, this NDP Liberal government, has doubled housing costs. I found it interesting that the NDP has now discovered that they doubled housing costs. A second ago, a Montreal MP stood up to point to a young woman, Pascal, who can no longer afford to rent, much less to own, after housing costs have tripled in that city. When I was housing minister, rent was $700 in Montreal, and we built almost 200,000 units. Mr. Speaker, why can't the NDP put their actions where their words are and vote for a carbon tax? The
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
These slogans are clever, but they are empty, Mr. Speaker. It's empty rhetoric on the other side as always. In fact, he should take a look at the CMHC's report from today that puts a spotlight on Montreal, 106% increase in rental construction. Why is that, Mr. Speaker? Because GST has been waived by this government to ensure greater supply, to incent builders during a difficult time. He has no idea how to incent that sector. He's good at running around the country and insulting mayors, putting a spotlight on the homeless, but coming up with no ideas on that. It's more right-wing populism. They have nothing to say, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
In a carbon tax election, if that's true. Malheureusement,
Unfortunately, the Bloc Québécois is telling Quebecers, wait. If you can't pay your bills, just wait. If you can't buy a home, after 9 years of this Prime Minister, just hang on. If you're afraid of going out on the street because of crime that the Bloc Liberals have unleashed in our streets, in Quebec, a province that is at a breaking point because of immigration, they're just saying, hang on. Quebecers don't need to wait. They don't need to wait, Mr. Speaker. They need to choose a new government based on good common sense. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, the priority of our government is to deliver for all Quebecers and all Canadians, Mr. Speaker. That includes daycare spaces, a dental care program, historic housing investments, Mr. Speaker. In the meantime, what are the Conservatives concentrated on? Well, as we saw in the Journal de Montréal this week, Conservative MPs are being paid to go to Florida to sermonize on the importance of banning abortion and teaching creationism. You can't invent that, Mr. Speaker. They should be ashamed.
Even though members are not recognized on the floor and they shouldn't be speaking on the floor, I always invite them to be very mindful of the accusations that they make to other members. The honourable member from Kenora.
Taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and time is up after 9 years of this NDP Liberal government. People across Northern Ontario are struggling to fill their gas tanks. Young professionals cannot find an affordable place to live, and our communities are less safe. Mr. Speaker, these are all reasons why Canadians deserve a carbon tax election where they can vote for our common sense plan. But the NDP continue to support this government, Mr. Speaker, denying Canadians that opportunity. Why is this Prime Minister so afraid of facing a carbon tax election?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
They want to take away the rebate to Canadians. They'll have to explain that to Canadians, Mr. Speaker. What they'll also have to explain at some point, Mr. Speaker, is that they lost 800,000 affordable homes when they were in office. That minister, former Minister of Housing, who's now the leader of the opposition, went around, had no plan on housing, never mentioned homelessness once, and when it came time to vote in favor of ensuring zoning changes at the local level through federal dollars that would incent that change, he voted against. They all did. They don't care about those young people that the member just mentioned. They never cared. It's more right-wing populism, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Bloc Québécois showed its true colours by putting this Liberal Prime Minister on life support. They voted for a centralizing government that has a terrible record when it comes to public safety. Since 2015 in Quebec, the number of auto thefts has gone up by 185%. Violent firearms offences are up by 146%. Do the government of the Bloc recognize that their policies have created a major public safety problem across the country and specifically in Quebec?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about the investments we're making to make our communities safe. In fact, we are moving forward on banning some of the most dangerous weapons, over 1,500 assault-style weapons that are designed to kill. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives get upset because they're sent here to do the work of the gun lobby instead of keeping Canadians safe, in particular women who are disproportionately affected by gun violence. Mr. Speaker, it's a shame for Conservatives to stand up while voting against these measures.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Violence with firearms is up by 181%. But it's not hunters, it's street gangs with guns that are coming across the border. The money that's being invested should be at the border, and that's what a Conservative government will do. How can this government explain this weakness, and why are they still attacking hunters? The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage. Mr. Speaker, I would invite my colleague to be honest with Quebecers because he knows very well that it's not the weapons of hunters that are being banned. It's assault weapons that are designed for war, Mr. Speaker, and which are being used by street gangs to murder. And my colleague should know very well that the first victims they're the main victims of gun violence across Canada and in Quebec are women. So if he's against our assault weapon ban, that's particularly shameful, particularly in Quebec after Polytechnique. The Honourable Member for Shefford. Quebecers have told us time and time again they're worried about the cost of living and living conditions for seniors. That's why we presented our ultimatum for October 29th. The Liberals don't have the right to abandon seniors aged 65 to 74 given the rising cost of living. They need to end the two classes of senior citizenship that they've created. They need to stop discriminating against seniors, and they have until October 29th to do it. Are they going to meet our demand, or will they continue to defend this terrible record to voters? The Honourable Minister of Labour and Seniors. Mr. Speaker, 14,600 seniors who live in my colleague's riding are today benefiting from the federal Canadian dental care program in her riding of Shefford. And yet she risen in this House several times to vote against vulnerable seniors in her riding who are currently benefiting from this program and who are saving hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Why, Mr. Speaker?
Then I have
the honourable member for Shefford. Well, that's not the question, and the Liberals are going to soon realize that October 29th is coming quickly. In the meantime, can they show a sign of good faith to seniors and community organizations who are working with seniors? The Liberals can commit to agree with the government of Quebec and stop holding back funds for the Bien Vieillir Chez Soi program. It's unacceptable that a fight created by the federal government to interfere in Quebec's jurisdiction is hurting organizations that are helping Quebec's seniors. Will they come to an agreement with Quebec and stop holding seniors hostage? The Honourable Minister of Labour and Seniors. And that's not all. That's not all, Mr. Speaker. When we brought back the age of retirement from 67 to 65 years, what did the member and her colleagues do? They voted against that, Mr. Speaker. When we increased the guaranteed income supplement, a federal program that has helped hundreds of thousands of vulnerable seniors, the Bloc and my colleague from Shefford voted against that. We increased OAS for vulnerable seniors. She and her colleagues voted against that, Mr. Speaker.
Then I have
the honourable member for Berthier-Masquinongé. It's an ultimatum. Bill C-282 on supply management must be passed before October 29th. It should be simple. The House of Commons voted in favour of it, but it's been stuck in the Senate for over a year. Yesterday in committee, a senator asked an excellent question. And I quote, "Can you please explain how it is that this bill has been stuck in the Senate? It was supported by the vast majority of members of the democratically elected House." Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has appointed 80% of the senators. Is he going to tell them that it's time to move this bill forward?
Then I have
the Honourable Minister.
Culture and Agri-Food.
Merci, Monsieur President. Our government, of course, supports supply management. My honourable colleague is well aware that we supported Bill C-282 because, of course, we have and always will support supply management. Unlike the Conservatives who fell shamefully behind when important funding for supply management came towards the House and they voted against it. I think my honourable colleague is fully aware we have and will continue to support supply management. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Sarnia-Lambton.
After 9 years of these NDP Liberals, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and time is up. The NDP leader made a big deal about tearing up the supply agreement with the Liberals and then flip-flop by voting to keep this Prime Minister in power.
That's right.
The NDP leader needs to end the costly coalition with the Liberals. People can't afford to eat. Ontario food banks just posted an 8-year high in usage. Canadians need a carbon tax election. Why is the Prime Minister so afraid to have one?
The Honourable Minister of Families, Children and Social Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Of course, we all suffer when we know that there are fellow Canadians that are struggling. We've made historic investments as a government to ensure that our social security net is strong for Canadians, whether that's in $10 a day childcare, Mr. Speaker, whether that's restoring the retirement age to 65, Mr. Speaker. But let's not pretend that the Conservatives really care about helping Canadians, because if they did, they would be supporting these important measures that are helping.
The honourable member from Sarnia-Lambton.
Well, here's what they've really done. This NDP Liberal coalition has doubled the debt, doubled housing costs, taxed food, punished work, and unleashed crime in our streets. So instead of selling out Canadians by keeping this Prime Minister in power, the NDP leader needs to vote with common sense Conservatives for a carbon tax election. Why not let Canadians decide whether they want to have the carbon tax hiked by 61 cents a litre by the Liberals, or whether they want a government that's going to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime.
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think the question is, why are the Conservatives so desperate for an election right now? Because they want to make sure they get out before Canadians understand that they have a hidden agenda. But, Mr. Speaker, Canadians are much smarter than that. When the Conservatives say one thing and do another, Canadians know. We trust Canadians. When will Conservatives start trusting them?
The honourable member from Saskatoon West.
Mr. Speaker, after 9 years of this NDP Liberal government, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and time is up. The Saskatchewan Premier said the carbon tax is, quote, costing Saskatchewan's health and education systems nearly $380 million. That's money that could be used for more teachers, more doctors, and more nurses. This NDP Liberal carbon tax is literally taking away teachers and nurses from Saskatchewan. Shame on the NDP for supporting this tired Liberal government. Mr. Speaker, if the Prime Minister wants to cut teachers and nurses in Saskatchewan, why won't he call a carbon tax election and let Canadians decide?
The Honourable Minister for Natural Resources and Energy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once again, I would encourage my Conservative colleagues to actually use facts. 8 out of 10 Canadians get more money back. It is an affordability measure. People who live on modest incomes actually benefit significantly. It's also an important way of fighting climate change. And if he wants to quote Scott Moe, I would say when Scott Moe appeared here in Ottawa and talked about the price on pollution, he said he looked at doing something else and everything else was too expensive. So he wasn't going to do anything to fight climate change. I guess that's the answer of the Conservative Party of Canada.
The honourable member from North Island, Powell River.
Mr. Speaker, veterans taking part in the Invictus Games have found themselves on the hook for medical insurance. This comes as a shock since all serving military members have theirs covered under the Canadian Armed Forces. The Liberals created this mess, and now this one veteran has had their life changed after a serious injury provided during the previous games. Will the minister admit to this mistake and extend medical coverage to all Canadian Invictus athletes for the upcoming Whistler Games, or will they continue to ignore the needs of veterans?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Invictus Games offers a very unique rehabilitation opportunity to ill and injured veterans and also for members of the Canadian Armed Forces. It is also important to make sure that the well-being of veterans is taken care of during the Games and also after the Games. That is why that we will continue to work with the Canadian Armed Forces, Soldier On, Invictus Games, and other stakeholders to ensure that the well-being of our veterans is always taken care of, and want to ensure this situation will be rectified before Invictus Games 2025. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Courtenay, Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, young Canadians are in survival mode, and rates of anxiety and depression have gone through the roof with the high cost of living and youth unemployment. Many are struggling just to meet their basic needs, like food and shelter, making paying for therapy out of pocket seem like a luxury. The Liberals promise to ensure mental health is treated as a full and equal part of Canada's universal public healthcare system, but they have failed to deliver. When will the government finally get serious about the mental health crisis and ensure all Canadians can access the mental health care they need when they need it?
The Honourable Minister for Mental Health and Addictions.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member for his question, and I say as the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions, but also as a mother to 2 teenage daughters, that is exactly why in 2024, in this year's budget, we pledged $500 million towards the Youth Mental Health Fund, Mr. Speaker, working with community service organizations across this country. Youth-led for youth in every community across this country. We want to meet young people where they're at to get the supports and the services that they need and that they deserve. This is the future of our country, and we are going to take care of them so that we build a stronger Canada together.
The honourable member from Richmond Hill.
Mr. Speaker, I'm proud that around the world, Canada has a reputation for helping its friends and being there for its allies. The world was rightly shocked when the Conservative Party repeatedly voted against Ukraine. But Canadians were shocked once again this week when the Deputy Conservative leader disparaged and personally attacked the German State Secretary for saying that climate change is real and Europe wants to buy clean Canadian energy. Can the Minister of Energy and Natural Resources share with this House how Canada is supporting our European allies like Germany?
The Honourable Minister for Natural Resources and Energy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the Honourable Member for the question. When Ukraine was invaded by Russia, we worked actively with them to support them, including providing necessary equipment to support their electricity grids, while the Conservatives chose to abandon Ukraine. When Germany said they needed help from Canada with energy security of providing clean hydrogen and critical minerals, we said yes and worked with them on the way, and the Conservatives simply bullied German officials publicly. Providing clean energy to the world is something that will benefit Canada from a prosperity and jobs perspective, but also will enable us to help our allies around the world. The Conservative rhetoric is going to cost Canada its friends. It's going to cost Canada jobs.
I know all honourable members get passionate when it comes to questions and answers here, but we must make sure that we show fundamental respect for all members. I know the honourable member from Calgary, Signal Hill, is a veteran of this and other places, and I'm certain he knows which way to make sure that the language is appropriate. The honourable member from Bay of Quinte.
Mr. Speaker, after 9 years of Liberal government, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, time is up, and now tariffs are up. With softwood lumber tariffs doubling to 14.5%. Well, what's happened? Today, the Resolute Forest Products announced the closure of the Morrisserie and Maniwaki, Quebec sawmills, costing 280 jobs because of the tariffs. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister said this was a small issue. Can the Prime Minister explain why the loss of 280 jobs is a small issue, or is he just a soft Prime Minister?
The Honourable Minister for International Trade and Export Promotion.
Mr. Speaker, I agree with the member that the forestry sector and the workers, particularly in this sector, are tremendously important to our communities across the country. They are dedicated workers that give their all. But as as we have said, these punishing tariffs are unjustified. We've said this in the United States. In fact, indeed, I know that the United States care about building affordable homes just as we do, and these tariffs, if they were to get rid of them, will actually help us build affordable homes in this country and in the United States.
The honourable member from Bay of Quinte.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Canadian softwood lumber producers have already paid $9 billion more because of these excess tariffs since 2017. But you know what else they pay? The carbon tax. Right. The carbon tax costs hundreds of millions of dollars more, that makes it uncompetitive to the U.S. industry. But you know what the irony is? This industry plants trees. Last year alone, they planted 440 million trees, while this government's $2 billion tree program barely got off the ground. Isn't it time for a new common sense minister who's going to axe the tax, stand up for Canadians, and fight for the 400,000 jobs in the forest sector?
The Honourable Minister for Natural Resources and Energy.
Mr. Speaker, the question is yet another example of the Conservative Party not doing its homework and not learning the facts. As I say, on a residential basis, 8 out of 10 Canadians get more money back. It is an affordability measure and an effective way to fight climate change. In terms of the plant that he is talking about, it is based in Quebec, which has its own cap and trade system. They do not pay the price on pollution.
The honourable member for Chicoutimi-Lafleur. Mr. Speaker, this morning we learned that the Morrisserie sawmill and in Maniwaki too, they'll be closing their mills. 280 workers are going to lose their jobs. And this is not the end of it. More sawmills will be closed down as the Environment Minister imposes this order that will kill a minimum of 1,400 jobs. Why do the Liberals always fail to help out forestry workers? The Honourable Minister of the Environment. Mr. Speaker, I know that on the Conservative benches they don't really like science or researchers and so on, but I will quote from Louis Bélanger, a professor from Laval University, who said recently that the need for the emergency order is clear. The government is simply applying the law in the absence of an effective provincial strategy to protect this species. Another expert said that the Government of Canada's emergency order is justified and measured, especially from the point of view of science. Here on this side, Mr. Speaker, we're pro-science. The honourable member for Chicoutimi-Leflore. Mr. Speaker, the workers in the forestry industry in Quebec work hard, but they are always being punished by a Liberal government propped up by the Bloc. This is a threat to 1,400 jobs, and it's still pending because the Bloc is propping up the Liberal government. We are pro-region. The Bloc is no longer a party of the regions, and we saw that recently with their election of a member in Montreal. What's it going to take for this to change? The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change. Mr. Speaker, I'm proud of the people I represent. I'm a member for Montreal, but perhaps the member opposite should speak to forestry workers in Quebec who said to me, and they've said in a number of public commissions, that the future of the industry and the forest depends on the health of the forests, which the Conservative Party of Canada seems incapable of understanding. The honourable member for Beauport-Limoilou. Quebec City is the cradle of the French language in the Americas, but the Governor General has cancelled her visit to the Pignon Bleu because she doesn't understand French 3 years after promising to learn it. The Pignon Bleus, their preparations for Ms. Simon's visit, were all for nothing. The Pignon Bleus simply thought they'd be able to express themselves in their own language, French. But Ms. Simon remains incapable of showing them this basic respect. How can the Liberals find that acceptable and justifiable? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our government remains firmly committed to protecting the French language here in Canada. It's important to note, Mr. Speaker, that Her Excellency, the Governor-General, has not had the opportunity to learn. She didn't get the chance to learn French when she was young because of discrimination, and yet she's the first Indigenous woman to hold the position. She speaks an Indigenous language that she's very proud of. We expect her to continue studying French. Linguistic duality is at the core of our identity as Canadians. The honourable member for Beauport-Limoilou. La Pointe de l'Île, rather. The Governor-General has had 3 years to learn French. Taxpayers have even paid for $28,000 worth of lessons. Obviously, she's not trying hard enough. But why would she? She's already got the job. History is repeating itself for Francophones. Today we're talking about Mary Simon, but it was the same thing when Air Canada hired Michael Rousseau. Will the Liberals finally admit that when they appoint Anglophones who promise to learn French, the joke's on Francophones? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, Canada is a bilingual country, and Canadians expect their leaders to be able to express themselves in both official languages. The Governor-General was unable to learn French when she was young because of discrimination in Canada at the time. We expect her to continue her studies and her learning of French because linguistic duality goes to the heart of our identity as Canadians, proud of our bilingualism here in Canada.
The honourable member from Oxford.
9 years of these NDP Liberals, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, time is up, and now visits to Cambridge food banks are also up, nearly 20%. The Liberals' carbon tax scam has forced our seniors and our families to rely on food banks for their survival. The NDP continue to prop up their political masters and deny Canadians that carbon tax election they so desperately want. Why is the Prime Minister so afraid of a carbon tax election, and why won't he call one now?
The Honourable Minister for Families, Children and Social Development.
Mr. Speaker, I welcome the opportunity to talk about the childcare numbers that are up, Mr. Speaker. Just last week, we saw Comox Valley Schools announce a new childcare facility with 108 new spots for children there, Mr. Speaker. We also heard in Winnipeg, the Splash Childcare Centre, an additional 40 new spots for children. That's 248 new spots for kids here in our country. High quality, affordable care. That's what's up, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member from Langley Aldergrove.
After 9 years of the NDP Liberals, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and now time is up. Yet the NDP leader and his colleagues voted yesterday to keep the Prime Minister in power so that he can quadruple the carbon tax to 61 cents a litre, the carbon tax that drives up the cost of everything and is driving a record number of British Columbians to food banks. Why is this Prime Minister so afraid of a carbon tax election? Why won't he let Canadians decide?
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday what we saw is that the House voted non-confidence in the Leader of the Conservative Party of Canada.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-l'Érable. Mr. Speaker, we can no longer wait after 9 years of this Prime Minister with the Liberal Bloc coalition. 72% of young people feel that they're less well off than the previous generation. The Liberal Bloc coalition is supporting a government that turns its back on young people. A government that, when are they going to build? Why not let them vote for a government that will build housing and fix the budget? Honourable Minister, thank you. Mr. Speaker, what's good for Quebecers, what's not good for Quebecers and including young ones, is the insults and petty partisanship that the Conservative leader does day in, day out. And he knocks investments that young Quebecers need. The Conservative leader not only calls everyone incompetent, but he also would rip up the deal we signed with the government of Quebec, $1.8 billion to build tens of thousands of affordable housing units in Quebec. All members on both sides, please order. The Honourable Member for Alfred Pellan. Mr. Speaker, our government has introduced a plan to build 25,000 new homes on federal Crown land by 2031. The Conservative leader and his housing plan would see federal buildings sold off to the highest builder with no guarantee of affordable housing. Can the Minister of Public Works explain to the people of Alfred Pellan how federal lands will be used to create affordable housing all across the country? The Honourable Minister of Public Services and Procurement. Mr. Speaker, let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It takes a second hand to count the number of units, affordable units, that were built under the Conservative leader's tenure as Minister responsible for housing. That is incompetence for you. We have created 8,000 affordable housing units all across Quebec. And so we don't need any lectures from Conservatives.
The Honourable Member from Calgary, Forest Lawn.
9 years of the Liberal NDP Soft on Crime coalition, taxes up, costs up, crimes up, extortions up, times up. In Calgary, disturbing stories emerged of armed criminals committing extortions and kidnappings against families and businesses. This Liberal NDP coalition voted against Conservative Deputy Leader Bill C-381 to crack down on extortions. Instead, the coalition made it easier for criminals to get bail and re-offend. Why is the freedom of criminals more important to this government than protecting extortion victims?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, on the contrary, every single measure that we've made, including investing in police to combat guns and gang units, guess what, Mr. Speaker? Conservatives voted against and are against. In addition to that, Mr. Speaker, when they were in power, they actually cut the CBSA, the RCMP, who did this very work, who worked with our provincial and municipal counterparts in policing. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to addressing crime, Conservatives are all about cuts and slogans, and we're about action.
The honourable member from Wellington, Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, 9 years ago, we warned the government about joining the Beijing-led Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, and so did the Obama-Biden administration. Last year, news about the Chinese Communist Party's infiltration of the bank forced the government to initiate a boycott and to begin a review. The boycott is now 15 months, and Canada still has its shares, and Beijing still has the nearly $250 million that this government gave the bank. So, when will the government release the review, dump the shares, and get the money back?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, as soon as the Minister heard about these very serious allegations, she took action. The Minister announced an immediate halt, Mr. Speaker, to all Canadian government-led activity at the bank while we conducted a review of the allegations. In December, we announced an expansion of that review in partnership with some of our closest international partners. The Department of Finance continues to review the matter, as well as Canadians' participation in the organization. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very good. The honourable member from Sturgeon River Parkland.
Mr. Speaker, taxes are up, costs are up, crime's up, time's up. The Minister of Environment says he's proud of his preparations for the catastrophic Jasper wildfire, but 1/3 of Jasper was destroyed, $1 billion in damages, and 2,000 people are homeless. This isn't something to be proud of, and yet this is the record of failure that this NDP party supports. Banff, Lake Louise, and Jasper are still in danger. It's time for this minister to take responsibility for his failure so we can prepare for the next fire. Will he?
Yeah. The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, this member should be ashamed of himself. They have deliberately taken out of context emails between Parks Canada officials who were debating which measures to use to fight fires as opposed to not fighting fires at all. One of those Parks Canada employees has received death threats.
Oh my God.
Since they put this online, they should be ashamed of themselves, Mr. Speaker.
Oh my God.
Colleagues. The honourable member from Brampton South.
Mr. Speaker, today is World Contraceptive Day, an important day to remember that too often contraception is not accessible due to political ideology. On this side of the House, we proudly supported Pharmacare, which is providing free contraception to Canadians. Can the Minister of Mental Health and Addiction please tell this House what else the government is doing to expand access to universal contraceptives and support the right of women to choose across Canada?
The Honourable Minister for Mental Health and Addictions.
Mr. Speaker, we will always defend the freedom for a woman's right to choose. Conservatives time and again have shown they will claw back women's rights, from presenting backdoor legislation to prevent access to abortion. Abortion services are voting against a woman's freedom of access to contraceptives. We will never let politicians dictate what a woman can and can't do with their bodies. Certainly not fly to Florida on all-expense-paid trips to meet with anti-choice politicians. They need to be honest with Canadians about their hidden agenda, because we stand on this side for women's rights.
The honourable member from Vancouver East.
Canadians are appalled by the Liberals' failure to help family members in Gaza get to safety and reunite with their loved ones here in Canada. From the beginning, the government's initiative was marred in red tape and roadblocks. Precious time was wasted and loved ones continue to be killed. Israel's brutal siege and bombardment continue and is further escalating in the region. What concrete action has this government taken to ramp up diplomatic efforts and collaborate with NGOs on the ground to help bring loved ones to safety?
The Honourable Minister for Immigration, Citizenship and Refugees.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think we can all agree as a House the best way to make sure that Gazans are safe is to make sure that there is a ceasefire so that we can continue to work with people to get the people here that have connections to family members that are looking to be reunited with them. We will continue as a government to work with the authorities on the ground, whether we agree with their positions or not, to make sure those people are kept safe, and we'll continue to work to make sure those people get to Canada in an expeditious fashion. Thank you.
The Honourable Member from Spadina, Fort York.
Mr. Speaker, education is a provincial domain. Still, MPs would agree the safety of children is a concern for all Canadians. Does the government support Ontario's criticism of the abhorrent action of the Toronto District School Board using students as pawns for a foreign protest that hijacked learning about Indigenous peoples and their efforts to get clean water? Mr. Speaker, activist teachers on a TDSB sanctioned field trip compromised the safety of children and violated the trust of parents. Will the government stand up to deceit and hatred?
Remind all members, please not take the floor where they're not recognized. The Honourable Minister for Indigenous Services.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. That's a question for the Ontario government. But on this side of the House, what we've been focused on is ensuring that every Indigenous child in this country has a fair chance to succeed in their educational journey. And in fact, Mr. Speaker, what we saw when we took office 10 years ago was a chronic underfunding of First Nations education systems, so that education rates were appalling across this country, leading to First Nations students not being able to reach their full potential. We've changed that, Mr. Speaker, and we're proud of that.
And so brings to an end another oral questions. I see that there's some members who are rising on a point of order. I recognize the Honourable Member from Edmonton Strathcona.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, while we appreciate that you have acknowledged and ruled that the Leader of the Opposition was out of order last Thursday, we are confused by the mixed messaging that you've sent to this House. The member was out of order and yet has still been allowed to participate in debate, and today have 5 questions in question period. The regular practice is that a member isn't recognized to speak until they have withdrawn, and that is not being applied, and we have some concerns about the mixed messages. I'd also like to remind the Speaker of the very serious matter that was raised yesterday regarding the member for Fort Saskatchewan Sherwood Park. We are still waiting for him to withdraw and apologize for his homophobic and disgusting comment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Greg Fergus is a loser. I know you guys all know this, but it doesn't change the fact, or it's hard to resist saying. Okay, well, we'll see what they're doing here. And the plan is, guys, to watch a Senate question period right after this. I have one ready to go. My computer's been giving me issues today, so I'm not sure. It might be touch and go.
I will recognize him in due turn, but I understand on the same point of order so that the member doesn't have to get up twice. The Honourable Member, Parliamentary Secretary for the Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I would just want to add a couple thoughts to it. We have to put into proper perspective when a member is requested by the Speaker's chair to withdraw the remarks. As it's been pointed out, they are required to do so. If they do not, speakers have not identified them until they do the apology. We can give ample examples of that. We cannot allow a second tier of a member of Parliament that he is allowed, or he or she is allowed, to violate the rules, and then it is the political party that pays the consequence. That's in fact what we saw here. There was the Conservative Party that lost the 3 questions. There was no penalty to the member from the Leader of the Conservative Party. That causes a great deal of concern for all parliamentarians.
All right, gang. So what we're going to do is we're crossing over into committee now. We're going to get rid of this. Cross over into committee. We're going to jump right into a Senate question period, just because maybe some people haven't seen that. It's quite a bit different than the House of Commons question period. It's a pageant still, but it's a different kind of pageant. It's more refined. So yeah, we'll get this going over here. Shouldn't take long.
Période des questions, question period. Senator Platt.
Government Leader, this time last year, Prime Minister Trudeau held a press conference in which he promised that grocery prices would come down by Thanksgiving. Minister Champagne held a press conference and told Canadians to use coupons to buy groceries if they weren't doing that already. Here we are, Leader, approaching another Thanksgiving. Canadians still cannot afford to feed themselves. Earlier this month, we learned 1 million people in Ontario used a food bank in the last year. This is a 25% increase in just 1 year. Leader, Canadians are skipping meals, eating less healthy foods, and relying on food banks. Don't you agree, Leader, that we need a carbon tax election? Shouldn't they have the chance to vote out this incompetent NDP Liberal government and axe the tax?
Senator Gold.
The short answer is no. The government continues to have the confidence of Parliament, and for so long as it does, it will continue to do what Canadians expect it to do, which is to apply itself in a serious way to serious solutions to the serious problems. You give me so many opportunities to comment on the, and I'm going to use the 1 minute, because increasingly Canadians have become aware that all that is being offered and certainly being amplified in this chamber are slogans, empty slogans, focus group-driven slogans, time and time again. It is very thin gruel for Canadians who need better answers from their government. They're getting them from this.
Merci.
Well, in fact, Parliament does not have the confidence, or the government does not have the confidence of Parliament. Jagmeet Singh and Blanchette are running this government. They are the ones in charge, not Justin Trudeau. Yesterday, the chief economist for BMO said inflation is lower, prices are not. He used the example of bread, which has jumped dramatically over the last couple of years and hasn't come down. With that in mind, Leader, could you tell us how much your government spent on catering during the latest affordability?
Senator Gold. C'est à vous la parole. Merci. Merci, Senator. You have the floor. Gold.
Thank you very much. The Government of Canada continues to work with partners in the provinces and the territories and the private sector to address the challenges that Canadians are still facing. It is very good news, despite the predictions that you made in this chamber, that inflation has come down regularly, as the government said it would, based upon its prudent fiscal and financial planning and practices.
Senator Houssakos.
Senator Gold, your government's carbon tax is adding to an already heavy financial burden facing Canadians after 9 years of Justin Trudeau. And all you do is belittle critics of this tax and accuse them of being anti-science. Meanwhile, you've provided not one shred of evidence of how your carbon tax is actually fighting climate change or preventing natural disasters. What we do have is an email from Minister Guilbeault's office written just a couple of months ago before the Jasper wildfire, in which staff discussed the decision to cancel the planned prescribed burns in Western Canada. Your government was warned as far back as 2017 that if these burns didn't take place, a catastrophic fire in Jasper was not a matter of if, but when. You ignored those warnings. You ignored the experts. You ignored science. Why? Is it because you care more about pushing your carbon tax agenda than you do taking tangible action to prevent events like this? Why didn't you listen to the experts and save Jasper when you had the chance, Senator Gold?
Senator Gold.
Canada, the government of Canada, has a plan in place to address climate change, to take your first part of the preamble to your question. And indeed, carbon emissions are coming down. To suggest, however, that a price on pollution, which is a long-range, well-established, economically viable and grounded principle, is going to reverse the decades of degradation of our environment that have produced the climate change and the disasters not only in Jasper. With regard to Jasper, I think it is important to note that the government has introduced a bill. We will be receiving it soon and debating it quickly to devolve the responsibility to Jasper to deal with the tragedy that affected their community.
Honourable colleagues, let me answer the question for you, and I'll answer the why. The email in question states, and I quote, "As more and more articles raise public concern about drought conditions, public and political perception may become more important than actual perception windows." End of quote. In other words, public and political perception is more important to the Trudeau government than is the actual science. And you want to lecture us and others about playing politics? The truth is, Justin Trudeau will do anything to hold on to power, Senator Gold. Why won't you force, once and for all...
Merci, Senator Moussakos. Merci, Senator Gold.
I am not lecturing you. I won't lecture you, and I don't appreciate being lectured at either. The fact is that misleading, irresponsible rhetoric is contributing to the degradation of our political discourse in this country, and Canadians deserve better.
Senator Coyle.
Senator Gold, the Canadian Net Zero Emissions Accountability Act requires the government to set emissions reductions commitments for 5-year intervals towards net zero by 2050. The next target for 2035 is due by the end of this year. Today, the Net Zero Advisory Body released a report recommending a 50 to 55% reduction in emissions from 2005 levels by 2035, a much more ambitious target than our current 40% reduction goal for 2030. According to the Canadian Climate Institute's most recent estimates, Canada has achieved an 8% reduction in emissions between 2005 and 2023, with sectors such as oil and gas and agriculture continuing to see rising emissions. Given the urgency of addressing climate change and the slow progress to date, will the government commit to meeting this newly recommended target for 2035?
Senator Gold.
Well, thank you for your question, Senator. And the government, through me, wants to thank the Net Zero Advisory Body for its important work. I've been advised that the government is reviewing the report and indeed its recommendations, and we'll have more to say about that shortly.
Senator Coyle.
Thank you, Senator Gold. The report also proposed that Canada adopt carbon budgets to track cumulative emissions, which would provide a more comprehensive framework for progress monitoring rather than just focusing exclusively on milestone years. Is the government considering adopting carbon budgets to track progress and ensure accountability across sectors, notably those which continue to see rising emissions, and help to guide efforts to achieve more ambitious emissions reductions targets and effective actions?
Senator Gold.
Well, thank you for your question. As I mentioned, the government is reviewing very seriously the recommendations, and I have no doubt that those recommendations will guide government policy.
Senator Lafreda.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Senator Gold, last spring I raised concerns about internal trade barriers, emphasizing the urgency of addressing challenges faced by businesses when buying, selling, and investing across provincial borders. Today, I want to shift the focus to labor mobility barriers. Can you provide us with an update on the discussions and measures taken to improve interprovincial labor mobility, especially in light of the commitment made in the Fall Economic Statement to work with provinces and territories on the full interprovincial mobility of construction and healthcare workers? A year ago, federal, provincial, and territorial governments agreed to improve labor mobility and foreign credential recognition for health professionals. Ontario has made significant progress in this area earlier this year. Can you provide this chamber with an update? Thank you.
Senator Gold.
Well, thank you for the question and for underlying one of the great challenges within this country. We talk about Canada being a trading nation, but the barriers as between provinces for goods, services, and labor remains very much an unfinished business in our ongoing efforts as we build our country. I understand that earlier this year, federal, provincial, and territorial labour ministers met in Winnipeg to discuss a wide range of priorities concerning Canada's labour market in general. And as part of the Forum of Labour Market Ministers meeting, ministers discussed the important role of labour mobility and credential recognition for people working across the country. And this is a priority for the federal government, even though the issues are largely in provincial hands, as colleagues would know. Ministers noted that critical work is underway in all jurisdictions and agreed to strengthen collaboration.
Senator Lafreda.
Thank you for that answer. All levels of government are committed to eliminating unnecessary red tape for labour mobility in all sectors of the economy. When can we expect the Red Seal program to be expanded and improved? As you know, the government committed to expanding the program in 2023 and eliminating the duplication of credential recognition to allow greater mobility of tradespeoples, for example.
Well, thank you for your question. My understanding is that work is well underway to address credential recognition for people working across the country, indeed through the Red Seal program.
Senator Ross.
Senator Gold. In IRCC's departmental plan, they state that they will adopt a recognized institutions framework with qualifying post-secondary designated learning institutions. They also state that institutions that achieve higher standards will benefit from faster processing of study permits. It has been brought to my attention that some of the DLIs in New Brunswick have indeed followed the rules, and yet their chosen international students did not receive their study permits prior to the start of the school year. This resulted in losing these qualified students. In light of the minister's recent announcements regarding decreasing study permits, how can we guarantee that these institutions can count on the system to process the permits in a timely manner to be able to use their already reduced allotments?
Senator.
Well, thank you for your question. Indeed, as a former university administrator, I know very well the challenges that universities are facing, both budgetary, the role that international students play there, and the uncertainty that the changes that have been introduced in response to necessary adjustments in Canada are causing to those institutions. I'm not familiar with the specifics of the cases that you mentioned. I know that the minister is working with his counterparts seriously and on an ongoing basis. I'll certainly raise this issue with the minister at the first opportunity.
Senator Ross.
Thank you, Senator Gold. These designated learning institutions count on filling their quotas not only for the economic reasons that you referred to, but for diversifying the workforce and supporting labour market needs in New Brunswick and across the country. It seems that they are being unfairly penalised for a lack of efficiency in the processing system. What steps will the government take to improve this?
Senator Gold.
Thank you for your question. Work is ongoing, but continues to be needed, and more needs to be done to improve the efficiency of the processing in this area and in immigration, frankly, generally, as colleagues in this chamber will know from the issues that have been raised here before, and I'll certainly raise that issue again with the minister.
Senator Klein. Senator Klein.
Thank you, Speaker. Earlier this year, the Auditor General released a report on First Nations and Inuit policing with troubling conclusions. One of the findings was that the RCMP did not consistently meet the terms of the community tripartite agreements. Because of staffing shortages, the RCMP has been unable to fully staff the positions funded under the program's agreements over the past 5 years, leaving First Nations and Inuit communities underserved. Moreover, neither Public Safety Canada nor the RCMP collected sufficient information or conducted adequate analysis to identify whether requirements set out in policing agreements were being met and whether the program was achieving its intended results. As far back as 2014, poor performance measurement had been identified as an issue. Ergo, there is no evidence of meaningful progress. How does the government plan to address these issues?
Senator Gold.
Thank you for raising this important issue, colleague. I've been informed that starting this year, in the year 24-25, Public Safety Canada will engage with external partners to develop a program improvement action plan that will include at least the following 3 elements. 1, proposed updates to the 1996 First Nations policing policy and the terms and conditions that govern First Nations and Inuit policing programs. 2, an updated program governance framework that will reconfirm how demand for improved policing and community safety initiatives will be tracked by provinces and territories of jurisdiction. And 3, an updated program results measurement framework that has been collaboratively developed with provinces and territories of jurisdiction and, importantly, Indigenous partners funded by this program.
All right, gang, we're going to wrap up right now. My computer is really struggling, and I don't want it to conk out. We've done a pretty great show. That's an introduction to the Canadian Senate. If you're not familiar with it, leave it in the comments. If you'd like to see more, just let me know what you want to see on here, because I'm open to suggestions and all of these things. Like, I'm just one mind. I don't know. I'm just trying to learn myself, show people what I'm learning. Anyhow, that's the way that goes. So we're going to get out here on a little bit of romper room. I find this romper room video hysterical. So it's a good way to go out.
You should do exercises. That's important to our good health. And friends, tomorrow we are going to be visiting with a fisherman who will tell us about his very enjoyable hobby. Now, I would like to see you all through our magic mirror. Romper bumper, stomper boo, tell me, do. Magic mirror, please tell me today, did all of my friends have fun at play? I see all of my friends in Alberta. It's nice to see you. And I see Dan and Vivian. I see Marlon and Mona. I see Catherine and Harley. I see Anne and Elizabeth and Jane. I see Bert and Nicole, and I see you too. I hope to see you tomorrow, right here in Romp Room. Bing bong, knock knock, hey daddy do. Bing bong, tick tock, bebop boom.
Kick off your weekend with exciting CFL action when the Edmonton Eskimos tackle the BC Lions in Vancouver. Tomorrow night at 10:30 on CFTO TV.
Ding dong, knock knock, hey daddy do. Tip tap, pitter pat, granny cat too. Rooty toot, kimble, loopy loo. Bobbity stompity, romper room and friends.
All right, gang, we're out. Thank you all so much. We'll be back Friday to do our question period. It's going to be a great time. Thank you to all the new members. Thank you for all the gifts out there. Sheila, you're amazing. That's great. And especially welcome to the new members, and always welcome back to the regular viewers. We'll be back here tomorrow. Should be a wild one. They always are. Greg Fergus took away 3 questions from Pierre Poilievre today. Ridiculous, right? Anyways, we'll see what happens on Friday. It's always a bit weird on Fridays. It's a different mix of MPs. Anyhow, that's it. My name's Aaron, Canadian Looney. Like, subscribe, share. Share this channel with somebody that might also be looking to get involved in a regular chat room that's great like ours is. Sorry that somebody had to go today, but we're not going to insult our gang. That's not going to happen from the inside of this chat room ever. Like, not twice in one day. Anyhow, that's it. Aaron, Canadian Looney. Thank you all for watching. We'll be back tomorrow. Should be great.